that even the demons are subject to them. And they were very excited about this, and they were very amazed and awed that this was happening. But Christ responded in verse 20, and he said, "Nevertheless, do not rejoice in this, that the spirits are subject to you, but rather rejoice because your names are written in heaven." And we have to ask ourselves this question of what is it that causes us to rejoice? Do we rejoice because of some physical thing that we have? Do we rejoice because of some authority that we've been given, even as Christians? Is this something that we rejoice in, or do we rejoice only because of our salvation? Sometimes we do things with the wrong motives, and very often we do the right things, but we do the right things with the wrong motives. And this causes a problem because we go through life, or at least a large part of our life, thinking that we are doing things for the right reasons, thinking that we are being responsible, thinking that our spiritual life or our service in the church or my responsibility to my family or whatever it is, that I'm doing it out of a principle, that I'm doing it for a good reason. But actually, maybe the reason that I'm doing it is because I'm getting something out of it, and that if the day were to come that I no longer receive this thing that I've been getting out of it, then maybe I will stop. So we have to examine our motives and understand, do I do things for the right reason or not? What really are our motives for following God? When the people were following after Christ in large numbers, after he fed the 5,000, Christ said to them in John chapter 6, it says, "Most assuredly I say to you, you seek me not because you saw the signs, but because you ate of the loaves and were filled." He's criticizing and rebuking these people who followed after him, saying, the reason you follow after me is not because you believe in me, not because you want to obey my commandments, not because you want to do according to my will, but simply because I fed you. And now you want more food. You want something more for me to give you. So while from the outside, it appeared that all these people were following Christ, they wanted to find wherever he was, and when they found that he had crossed the sea, they went over to look for him. But were they really looking for him? They really want what he had to offer in a spiritual sense? Were they willing to sacrifice themselves for him, or they were simply wanting to be fed? So it was a physical, a physical motivation and not a spiritual one. Much like we could say about the apostles that they were excited and happy that the demons are subject to them, that they could cast out demons, they could perform miracles. But Christ said, you shouldn't rejoice in this. This isn't something to rejoice in. What happens if the day comes and the demons do not cast out? Is that the mark of an apostle, simply that they can cast out demons? Is that the whole story of what it means to be an apostle? Or should they be excited that their names are written in heaven? So we have to ask ourselves, do we serve Christ for personal gain or for the wrong reasons? Another example of this is Judas. Judas was an apostle just like the others, just like the 12 that followed Christ throughout his ministry on earth. And yet at the very end, we discover something about him, that even though from the outside it looks like he is following them all, and we don't really hear anything negative about Judas throughout his whole ministry, except until the very end, right before the crucifixion, and we begin to realize that he had a different motivation. He had a motivation where he wanted to use his authority and his power and the fact that he was the treasurer of the apostles to take this for himself, that he was greedy. And he was using this as an opportunity to enrich himself. We also see another example of this on Palm Sunday. Palm Sunday, all the people received Christ with joy, and they said, "Hosanna in the highest, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." And they spoke to him and treated him like a king. But shortly after, less than 1 week later, they crucified him. So again, when we look at the outside, we have to ask, what is it that is the motivation of these people, and what is our motivation for following Christ? And I think if we examine ourselves clearly, we might find that we have other motivations that are maybe causing us to do and say what it is that we do. First example I'm going to speak about is wrong motivations in serving. In Luke 15, this is the story of the prodigal son. At the end of the story, all throughout, you might say, well, it appears that the prodigal son was the one who was the bad son. He was the one who wasn't doing what he should have been doing. And the son who remained in the house, he was the good son. He was the responsible son. He was the one who always did according to what his father commanded. He was the one that wasn't going to go and squander all the wealth of his father like his younger brother did. And so we look at him and say, well, he had good motives, or he was responsible. He had something good in his character, and he was doing things for the right reasons, not like his younger son or younger brother. But we see this change toward the end of the story when it says in Luke 15, so he answered and said to his father, lo, these many years I have been serving you. I never transgressed your commandment at any time, and yet you never gave me a young goat that I might make merry with my friends. So begin to see kind of a sense of bitterness of inside the heart of the older brother, and that he was maybe doing the right things from the outside, but he was doing it with the wrong motives. He was expecting some kind of a reward, and he wasn't thankful that he was already living in the Father's house and that everything that the Father had was his own. He didn't consider that he was sharing in the work of the house and that he was an owner and that he was an heir. Instead, he considered that his father was being stingy with him, didn't give him exactly what it is that he wanted. So we can apply this to ourselves also. We have to think, why is it that we serve? Why is it that we work? Do we do it because we want to receive a reward, or do we do it because it is the right thing to do? Do we do it because we want to receive recognition, or do we do the right thing even when there is no recognition, or even when we are punished and persecuted for doing the right thing? This tells us something about our motivation. Okay, and we can see this whenever these good consequences that happen from our service goes away. For instance, it's easy to serve when everyone appreciates you, when everyone says good things about you, when everyone recognizes what you do. But what happens if these things go away? This doesn't happen. You're not appreciated anymore. Are we going to be very quick to say give up in our service? Are we going to give up in our parenting? Are we going to give up on our spouses because things are not easy like they were at the beginning? Are we going to give up because things are harder than they were? It tells us something about our motivation and why is it that we do what we do. Another area where we might have wrong motives is in giving. In Matthew 6, verse 1, it says, take heed that you not do your charitable deeds before men to be seen by them. Otherwise, you may have no reward from your Father in heaven. We have to ask, why is it that we give? Do we give because we want others to see that we give? Do we give because if we do not give, we might be judged? Do we give because we want other people to look up to us? Do we give because we want to feel good about ourselves? There's many reasons why we might do something, but we have to examine these motives and say, what is it that is our true motive? What is it that we are doing, and why is it that we do it? Another area we might have wrong motives is in prayer. In Matthew 6:5, it says, and when you pray, you shall not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the corners of the streets, that they may be seen by men. Okay, so what was the motivation of these people who were praying? Again, just to be seen. They wanted to be seen. When we come to the church, do we simply want to be seen? Or are we coming with sincerity of heart, asking for forgiveness and a spirit of repentance to God? Are we sincere in what we do? What is our motivation in what we do? Is it a sincere motivation? Or are we doing it for some other reason, like the older brother in the parable of the prodigal son? Prayer is supposed to be a conversation with God. It's supposed to be a private conversation to a large extent, something that we speak to God from our hearts about what exactly were we feeling, what exactly do we need from him, and we have this conversation. When Christ asked his disciples to pray, he said, go into your inner room. Go into the inner room. Go into the inside place. Go to the place where it's secret, where you and your Father can speak and converse privately, so that there is no one else who is watching. And that can guarantee for us that our prayer is only for God. It is not intended to sway anyone. It's not intended to curry the favor of anyone. It's intended only for God, that we speak to him and that he responds to us. And this is a private and intimate relationship. So we ask ourselves this also. Do we have the right motivation for why is it that we pray? What about fasting? In verse 16 of the same chapter, Christ says, moreover, when you fast, do not be like the hypocrites with a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces, that they may appear to men to be fasting. Actually, fasting is supposed to teach us self-denial. This is what the purpose of fasting, or one of the purposes of fasting. But we can actually convert it to something opposite, that we want to be seen. We want people to see that we're fasting. We want people to know that we are fasting. We seek praise, again, for ourselves in the church. there's something secret also about fasting. And even though we all know that there are seasons of fasting in the church, but we don't share with other people maybe a different rule that we use, a stricter rule, how long we abstain from food, maybe other things that we do during our time of fasting. Again, this is something private between each person and their father of confession and God. So we should also be thinking about this. Why is it that we fast? Do we fast because if I don't fast, then when people around me in church see that I'm not fasting, it's going to be like a scandal? Is that the reason why we fast? Do we fast the same when we're alone in our homes than when we're other people from church or at church also? What is the reasons that we do what we do? Because it's not about just the external actions. It's about the heart. And this is what God examines in us, is he examines why. What is our intention? Which is why when someone, maybe with good intention, fails many, many times, he is not judged or condemned because he is making a sincere effort to do good, but he just fails at doing it. Whereas another person maybe has all the resources to do good and fails to do it, this person will be judged by God. So this is why actually we cannot judge anyone, because we don't know the intentions of the heart of any person. All we can see is the external actions without examining the motives. God is the one who knows the motives, and God is the one who will search our hearts, and he will know us, and he will judge us according to our motives. So it's very important for us to look and see, what is my motive in what I do in the spiritual life? But then I want to say, is it always wrong to have the wrong motive? Is it always wrong? Is there some times where it's okay to have the wrong motive? For instance, when we teach children things in Sunday school, for instance, okay, how is it that we teach them? Maybe we offer them some kind of a reward, like a candy or something else that's a reward for what it is that they're doing. And we know that children are very motivated by this. And they can a lot of times do the right thing because we have offered them some kind of a reward or gift. Even when we raise our children, we have, positive reinforcement. Okay, we give them good things, that's unrelated to the tasks that we're teaching them, simply to enforce that this is good. Are we to say that this is wrong? Is this encouraging people to do things for the wrong motives? No, actually, it's okay for us to begin something with the wrong motives. And actually, every single one of us begins our lives with the wrong motives. As children, we do everything for the wrong motives. We don't understand the significance of anything. We don't understand what it means to obey for the sake of obedience. We don't understand what it means to have self-sacrifice and to give of ourselves to others even when we don't feel like it. So this is something that needs to be learned. And we learn partly in this, through this idea of positive reinforcement, that I seek a reward, that there is something that I want. And because I want this thing, I do what is good. Okay, so it is a wrong motive, yes, but it's a wrong motive that is for a time until I grow up, until I mature, until I change my motive from being a wrong motive to being a better motive. This is important, though, that we identify this, that our goal in the end is not to do things because we receive a reward, but our goal is to do them on the principle. Because ultimately, God is the one who rewards. And God's rewards are far better than any other earthly reward we can receive. So if we keep our eyes on this, keep our eyes on heaven, then our rewards will always come from God, and we will wait on God to reward us. And even if people around me don't offer me a reward, even if they don't give me what I seek from them, I know that God sees, and I know that God rewards, and I know that God is the one who is fair. He is the one who sees what is hidden. He knows my intentions, he knows my heart, and he will reward me accordingly. So it's not always wrong to have the wrong motive. Another way that sometimes we have the wrong motive is we do good because it feels good. We do good because it feels good. After we help someone, we might feel good. It's much easier actually to help someone who after we help them says thank you. It's much harder to help someone who after we help them curses us. Okay, but we're called to help them the same, whether they curse or whether they thank. In whichever way, God is telling us to do this. He says, actually, if somebody asks from you to go with them 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Even though this isn't something we want, maybe this is something that's painful, maybe this is something that, I don't want to endure a certain sacrifice that I'm making for the sake of another person, and yet we force ourselves to do it. As opposed to another person who may be helping them because they're so kind and they're so good, it's easy for us to help them. Maybe I help those who have helped me. It's easy for me to do that. But it's much harder for me to help those who hate me. So why is it that we do good? Okay? Again, at the beginning, it's okay if we have a wrong motive. Maybe I'm doing something good because it makes me feel good about myself. But I have to identify this. I have to identify that even though I might be doing something good from the outside, that I have to adjust my motive as I grow over time. This is an area where I have to focus and an area that I have to improve. It's a process, okay? So it's not wrong to start focusing on the wrong thing at the beginning, as long as it's motivating us to do good. And over time, we learn how is it that we should do things for the right reasons. This is a lifelong process that we grow into. Another thing we might do with wrong motives is we come to the church to see our friends. We come to church to socialize. We don't come to church necessarily for the sacraments. We're not really thinking so much about the sacraments. We're thinking about this is the community. This is the place where I come and meet my friends and other people that I know, which is why oftentimes when people's friends are not going to be at church, sometimes they decide not to show up either. Okay? Maybe I'm doing this for the wrong motive, but actually we attract people for reasons like this to come to church. For instance, when we offer food, when we have picnics, okay, or to do other things. What we're doing is we're giving people a reason to come to the church. Maybe people that don't normally come to church, is that why people should come to church? Because there's food? No. But it's a motivator that maybe when they come here, they'll be attracted to something else. Maybe God will work in their hearts, and eventually they can begin to come for a different reason, a reason that's not related to their stomach, a reason that's not related to their friends. But this is, again, a process that we all grow into, and we have to learn and understand. So it's not always wrong to do something with the wrong motive at the beginning. Another example is studying to win a competition. When we tell our children, for instance, that they're going to study something and there will be a competition in the end, and we'll see that who wins, and then maybe award them prizes according to who has won. This motivates our children a lot of why is it that they should study. If we tell them, well, you need to study because this information is good for you. It's going to help you in your future. But you're not going to get any reward. You're not going to get anything at all. How many children are actually going to do that? Very few. Okay? So we do something to encourage them, to motivate them, so that they will do what's good, and they will benefit from the knowledge that they gained, and only later on will they realize and be thankful that we made them do this and we motivated them to do this, even though they didn't understand it at the time. God does the same with us. He gives us many reasons to do things that are good, even though he sees that our motivations are wrong. He sees that we're not doing it for the right reasons. We're not coming to church for the right reasons. We're not doing many, many things for the right reasons. But he endures that. He has patience with us. He waits on us to change, and he continues to help us on this process. If God were to condemn us for every wrong thing and every wrong motive that we have, then we would have no hope. But he is very patient and very kind with us. When we start to grow spiritually, we begin to realize these things about ourselves. Okay? As we grow and mature spiritually, we should start to transition from doing things with the wrong motives to doing them for the right motives. For instance, look at the process that happens from someone who is a child who then becomes a parent. When you're a child, everything is about you, and all you care about is yourself. And all you want to do is what pleases you, and everything should focus on you. But as you grow, and then when you become a parent, it's like completely like flipped 180 degrees. Everything is about someone else. Everything is about your kids. I am willing to work hard and slave in my work, even when I don't like my work, for the sake of providing for my kids. I force myself to do things that are not comfortable by any means, for the joy of seeing like how my kids are benefiting from this thing. This is self-sacrifice. This is a transition from who I was, doing things with the wrong motive, to doing them for the right motives, even when I get no reward, even when I'm unappreciated, even when, things, I wish things were different, but they were not. And we see how much we do this out of our love for the children that we have. So imagine if we had this kind of love for others. We had this kind of love for God. If we had the same love for others and for God, the way that we love our children, then we would be willing to sacrifice for them, for God, for everyone, for the right reasons, because of love, not because of selfish gain. In 1 Corinthians 13, it says, St. Paul is saying, "When I was a child, I spoke as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things." We have to understand that there is a time and there is a day where we have to put away childish things, where the things that maybe used to work, the things that I used to be able to get away with, the things that were reasonable for me at my age and my maturity level are no longer okay, are no longer appropriate for who I am today, are no longer appropriate for the responsibilities that I have, are no longer appropriate for the life that I have chosen, that I am now a mature person, and I should live accordingly as a mature person, sacrificing of myself, whether or not it feels good, whether or not I will get a reward, whether or not, anything. I do it for the sake of the principle, and no longer with a wrong motive. So starting with a wrong motive is fine, but ending with the wrong motive is not. And we have to identify this, that this is a process that we go through. This is the same process the apostles went through. They started out at a place where they were very intrigued with the miracles that they could do. They were intrigued with this new mission that God had given them. They were arguing with each other about who was going to be the greatest. They were seeking recognition, who was going to sit at his left and who was going to sit at his right. All these things were in their minds at the beginning, before they had gained more spiritual maturity and understanding. Toward the end, however, toward the end after the resurrection of Christ, all of the apostles were willing to be martyred. They didn't care at that point who was going to be the greatest. They weren't thinking about who was the best. They weren't thinking about, what is in this for me. Actually, there was nothing in it for them. They were all going to be tortured and killed. And yet they continued and persevered in this for very different reasons that they did at the beginning. So they started with the wrong motives, but God, knowing their hearts, knew that they would grow into the right ones. And God sees the same in us. He might tolerate us. He might have patience with us because of our wrong motives, but we have to understand that this is the case, and we have to be willing to identify it and to work on it. So in conclusion, we spoke about several wrong motives. Okay, wrong motives for following Christ, the people who followed Christ only because he fed them. They didn't care about anything else. Wrong motives for serving, maybe because I get some kind of position or authority. Wrong motives for giving, maybe because people see me and see my charity and praise me for it. Wrong motives for praying, because that's the thing that we're supposed to do. We're supposed to come to church and pray, and people are watching me, what I do or what I don't do. Wrong motives for fasting. All these things. Again, wrong motives might be a good start, but we shouldn't stay in this place. Let's ask God that he help us to see our weaknesses, to see our wrong motives, to get past them, to grow, and to have the right motives that he wants us to have. And glory be to God forever. Amen.